Okay, everybody, and welcome to Last Tuesday. We are so excited that you're joining us tonight. I am thrilled because we have the ever talented Cheryl Cousins who is going to take us in to this month's webinar. I had so many people, they were interested in our title alone, Cheryl.
I
So,
know.
Cheryl and I are both trainers with the DSA, and we also have Dee Stevens on with us tonight. And we've worked together for a long time. And what I can tell you is when Cheryl puts her mind to doing these webinars, they are researched, they are prepared. So you are in for a treat. So without any further ado, Cheryl, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Well, thank you, Sandra. You raised that bar really high. So I really do hope they're not disappointed in the
They
material
will
that they're
not
going to get
be.
tonight. I certainly hope not. Now, I just want to make sure you can see my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can, but let's make sure that everybody else can see it. If you, okay, Jenny can hear us great, and can you see it? Yes, they can see it.
They can see it.
Perfect.
Okay, very good. So I'm going to drop this down so I can see it. And we're good?
We're good.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I am delighted to be here with you all tonight on this webinar. We almost ran out of days in the month of February. It's already a short month, but we needed to get this webinar in as part of the series for the year. So I'm excited. The title of the webinar, Pleasure Principles, sounds a little bit more spicy than it's actually going to be tonight. But I do hope that you'll gain something from it. And it's been a labor of love for me in the love month. So I do hope you enjoy it. Okay, so I'm not, let's see.
That one right there.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so you might say, what in the world is Cheryl doing starting this webinar off with the title Beauty and the Beast? And I think that Beauty and the Beast is a perfect way to describe this business that we find ourselves in. I can't see you, but I'm sure you are beautiful. And what we do is create beautiful spaces for people all around the world, all around this country. But sometimes working in this industry can be a beast. So it's bittersweet and strange some days, and sometimes you do have to find ways to change the way you do things in order to stay in business. So it is a beast, but we can conquer the beast. So I want you all to be confident in that. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you'll have some additional tools to use to make sure that you can continue to be successful. We can be busy, bounteous bosses in this industry, or you can end up broken, and out of business. I thought this was a really fun graphic for this slide because it is true. And sometimes it's just a matter of one job that you might have done that didn't turn out quite the way you wanted it to turn out. And perhaps you had to eat some of the money for a mistake that you might have made. It happens. So there is definitely the potential for you to either be busy and bounteous or to be broke and broken. So we want to make sure that we share some principles with you tonight to keep you a boss and definitely not broken. This is just a picture that I thought was appropriate for the title of this webinar. I'm looking quite sassy, as one of my girlfriends on Facebook told me the other day. But there are things that I have learned over the years in this business that I find very beneficial to share with people that are coming into the industry and people that are already in the industry who may be stagnated in terms of their ability to get business and to get clients. So I'm just going to share a little bit of my experience with you and the things that I've learned over the years. I started my business, Interior Transformations, in Atlanta in 2004. And I actually started, sorry about that, I started training for the Decorating and Staging Academy in 2006. Hold on one second for me. I don't know how to get that off, Sandra.
And the noise, the background, is that what you mean?
Okay, That's okay. I got it. So the I lost my train of thought. One of the things that I remember when I was starting out on my business, when I trained with Joanne, and this is a picture of Joanne, Sandra, and Carol and I from the time that we shared together in Arizona last year. We were doing some planning for the Decorating and Staging Academy. But I remember when I trained with Joanne way back when, she said, Cheryl, you're going to have to assert yourself because I'm not really a talker. I'm more of a thinker, and they tell me that all the time. I will think and think and think about things thoroughly before I have any comments about anything that needs to be done. And so what Joanne said to me when I first started was that you're going to really have to come out of your shell. And I have done that by and large and have been really successful in my business. But you want to be able to operate your business based upon a certain set of principles. And if you do that and don't compromise your principles, not only will you have a pleasing experience in terms of what you offer to the world as you create beautiful spaces, but you'll be happy with yourself in the end. And of course, that makes business all the more better. Okay. So it is my pleasure to be here with you tonight. As I said earlier, if you are in a state where Chick-fil-A is a major player in terms of fast food, then you know every time you have an interaction with Chick-fil-A, they end that interaction with "It's my pleasure." And I'm sure that's part of the culture of Chick-fil-A when they train their staff. But I just want to liken it to what we do. We always want to end every interaction that we have with our clients with it having been a pleasurable experience for them as well as for us. So the end result, of course, is always to get more houses. And don't you just like the spelling of that? I'm spelling that like the cows on Chick-fil-A. We want to be able to get more houses, but we need to be principled in terms of how we manage our businesses. So the points and principles that I'm going to share with you tonight are about the business and the busyness of what we do, as well as the art and science of what we do and the ways in which we need to operate to keep ourselves growing and going and passionate about creating pretty spaces. And when I say principled, I mainly mean systematic in terms of how you approach your business, but I also mean being principled in terms of being true to yourself and making sure that whatever you do does not compromise any of the principles that you espouse. So, you know, it's got to be meaning there.
And Cheryl, I'll throw in right here too, because my daughter worked at the Montage. And if anybody is on the webinar tonight that has been to a Montage or knows, the price point, I always say it's cheaper to stay in the hospital for the night than it is to stay at a Montage. I mean, it can be like $1,500 a night.
Yeah.
So, but what I love about this is whether you're ordering number one at Chick-fil-A, and who does not love Chick-fil-A, or you're staying at a high-end resort, the things that you can always count on, and they really do drill, and like you said, it's that principled mindset to what you can count on. You're going to count that that sandwich is going to be delicious. You're going to count that when you check into the Montage that they're going to get you whatever you need and make that experience pleasurable. So I love the comparison, whether we're doing luxury staging or we're doing, you know, shoestring, decorate, whatever it might be. People know that you are going to love working with them.
Exactly. And when the culture of your business, and most of us, I believe, are small businesses, right? That I don't think we have that many people who are doing businesses running businesses on a large scale, but you become known for a particular thing, right? And so when you're getting a referral, when someone is referring you and your business, there is a certain expectation that whoever is receiving that referral is going to look for. And when you have principles that you employ that are carried out for every project, then there is some validity and authenticity to what you do, right? So you want to make sure that that is consistent. There is a song that we sing in our church that I thought of when I was preparing this presentation. It's called Reckless Love. And of course, this is about God doing, so many amazing things to keep us, even sometimes when we make our own mistakes and get ourselves into a bind. But I thought about this in terms of interior decorating and staging. And very often we make sure that our clients are thoroughly satisfied and pleased with our job. And we bring the pretty by any means necessary. And I'm not saying that you don't go the extra mile for your clients. I think that it's important that you deliver what it is you say you're going to give. But you also have to be careful that you're not doing yourself a disservice in those attempts to make your client satisfied. So there are definitely benefits to going above and beyond, but there are also risks to doing that. And I have a story that I like to share with my students in my class about a project that I took on one year in October. And the project was supposed to have been finished before Thanksgiving. And unfortunately, there were items that were shipping and things that I was waiting for, and everything was delayed. So I ended up working for that client to get that house ready over the Thanksgiving holiday. So I didn't get Thanksgiving with my family that year. And it was disappointing for me and my family. So that's not something that I want to repeat. So, by any means necessary, I got it done. But in hindsight, I know that I need to be more careful with projects that are going to butt up against the holidays so I can make sure that I don't run the risk of sacrificing time with my family to get a project completed. So I just thought, that's a cautionary tale for everyone to just be careful and monitor the risks. Sometimes you do have to take the risk in order to get it done, but again, you don't want to do it so recklessly that it impacts you personally.
Great point, Cheryl.
Yeah. I thought this slide was really cool. And this young lady sort of looks like Beyonce, but not quite. That's not her. But happiness breeds creativity. And when you aren't happy, that old adage they say, when mama ain't happy, nobody's happy in a family. When you're not happy, you cannot be creative. So it's important for all of us to make sure we do things and build things into our lives and into our days that allow us the freedom to be happy in our business. There should not ever be a day in this industry and in your business where you are so disgruntled that you really can't function and you can't give your clients the best of yourself and the best of your creativity. So you have to do things to work happiness into your business structure. I like to think of us all, whether you're decorating or staging, as an interior artist. And sometimes artists can be temperamental. So you have to make sure that you have your happy place and that you go there often, just to make sure you're always replenishing yourself. If you, like me, have a home office and you're doing most of your work from home, then please make sure that your office is as beautiful as a space as you make for other people, because that does impact your creativity. And Sandra and I were chatting about this earlier about her office space. And Sandra, what did you share with me? I want you to share that with everyone on the webinar.
Well, I looked at my office, and we do some Facebook Lives, and I have a bookcase, and I have creatively styled it, and I like it. But invariably, this one naked wall I'm always shifting. And the other day, I thought, what am I doing? This wall is hindering my creativity. And so I went out to Home Goods, and I wasn't really sure. I didn't want to clutter it up too much, but it one picture wouldn't do it because of the way my chair hit it. You've got to be practical. I think I brought home about, I don't know, double the items I knew I needed. But when I got finished, I then sat down, and it's like, okay, I could take a breath. And I will have to post it one day, but I actually have a little plaque my daughter just gave me last week, and it says, I'm too creative for 9 to 5. So that little 4x4 plaque has made the cut on the wall, but it kind of recharged me.
Yeah.
And then I felt like attacking that pile of things that I needed to get to. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, that little addition of creativity just cleansed my mind and
Yeah.
got me back on track.
Yeah, it is so important. And, I understand life is life, right? And things happen. So there are going to be times as an entrepreneur and as a business owner that you're not going to be in a happy place, right? So there's got to be ways that things that you do to create space for yourself to manage the kind of stresses or stressors that we encounter every day, right? And I know myself that my creativity is stifled when I'm under stress. So sometimes you just have to, take a step back and get yourself together before you can proceed. When I'm not happy, things are not quite so pretty, right? So I know that it definitely impacts what I do. Another recommendation that I will give is to have or specify one day per week for just office work. And whatever it is you need to do in your office, whether it's truly office work or whether you just need to reorganize your office and put things in order. Sometimes I always say my office looks like Hiroshima and Nagasaki sometimes when I'm working on multiple projects and there's fabric and boards and pins and pictures and things scattered all over the place. But I have to have one day, at least one day per week, and it varies which day that is, but one day per week to keep my office intact so that my creativity will flourish when I'm in there. I can't function in when things are in disarray. So I encourage you, if you have an office at home or if you have an office that is not in your home, to just be mindful of that and make sure that your office stays suitable and conducive to creativity. This is a quote that I really like from St. Francis of Assisi. And I'm just going to change the he to a she because I believe most of the people on this call are feminine. But she who works with her hands is a laborer. She who works with her hands and her head is a craftswoman. And she who works with her hands and her head and her heart is an artist. And that is what we do. We do more than just hang a picture or move a sofa or, put down an area rug. There is a certain craft that we employ when we do what we do, and we do things to make sure that we stay ahead of the curve in terms of what's going on in the industry. But at the end of the day, what we do for our clients is artistry. When we find the perfect picture to hang on the wall in the family room, not just any picture that matches the colors that are in the space. So there's a lot more that goes into what we do, and we have to be very thoughtful about that. So allow yourself the time to unwind and make sure your creativity is always flowing so that you can give your client the best that you have. This website, which is I found it to be very supportive of people that are in our industry, is called destressmonday.org. So if you have a chance to sometime this week, go ahead and check it out. They have a beautiful yoga routine that I think is just splendid because you get to do yoga in bed. And I didn't even know that was a thing. But there are guided meditations that you can do to make sure that you always keep your heart and your mind clear. And it's just a really good way to, or a good source to go to when you know that, perhaps you've got a busy week coming up and you just not kind of need to get your mind right so that you can present your best self. So check out destressmonday.org. I think that you'll be delighted with what you find there. And also, I am an avid reader. Anybody that's followed me knows that I read continuously. I mean, there's a stack of books on my nightstand, and I get to pick and choose every night who I'm going to spend the evening with besides my husband. So it's a really normal thing for me to recommend books for people to read. And I am going to recommend to you that you read Robin Sharma's book, The 5 a.m. Club. I'm just going to give you a couple of bullet points that I found very worthwhile. If you are not an early morning person, which I am not, it might be a challenge for you, but I do suggest that you at least give it a try a couple of mornings a week to see if it makes a difference in terms of what you do and how you do it. So you'll wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning And for the first hour of the day, you're going to divide that hour into 3 components. The goal is to make sure that you're always mindful of your mindset, your health set, your heart set, and your soul set. And those 4 components, if you address them on a regular basis, will kind of keep you in a place where where your business will function and you'll be productive, more productive than not. As I said earlier, I'm a night owl, so I tend to do most of my things in the wee hours of the morning. And once I get on a roll, I don't know if you're like this, Sandra, but once I get on a roll, I really need to keep rolling until I get it done. And
Absolutely.
most of the time that is at night, but I am doing better, and I'm trying to change that so that I can take advantage of the brain chemistry that happens in the morning. I did not know this until I read this book, but the prefrontal cortex is shut down in the early morning hours, so you worry less about things that you can't control, because most of the time we're worrying about things we can't control, and you have a better focus on the things that you have to do. So getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning has physiological benefits, as well as benefits for your business. So in that first hour, for the first 20 minutes, you're going to do some sweating. Now, that doesn't mean you have to get up, get your running shoes on, and run around the block for 20 minutes and then come back home. You can just do what the previous slide said, do some yoga in bed. For that 20 minutes, just to kind of get your heart rate up, get your blood flowing. The next 20 minutes you are going to spend in reflection and or meditation and intention setting. So if you're like me, and if you're not like me, I recommend that you do make a list of things the day before that you must complete on the following day. And then the early morning intention setting will help you just solidify what it is you have to do to get your day up and running. And that way, you're not going to miss anything. And there are not going to be any ducks outside of your row. The last 20 minutes would be spent learning something new or reading some trade material, something magazine. Let's just say if you have access to the Window Coverings magazine, you can do some reading in that to find out what styles and what fabrics are trending. Okay, so just in that last 20 minutes, you're going to do something to benefit yourself. So something industry related and that you can use for your business. Additionally, I want to share with you a website. It's called Blinkist.com, and you can also download the app. And what it is, it's really cool for people who are not necessarily readers, but you can still get information from certain books that would be beneficial to your business. So what happens is someone at Blinkist will read the book for you, so you don't have to do it, and then they will write down bullet points, and then there is an audio that you will tap into, and it will tell you what the book actually is comprised of. And so you get all of the nuggets from the book without having had to read it. So I think that is a really
Okay, Cheryl.
yeah.
So let me get this straight.
Okay.
I'm going to get to do yoga in bed,
Yes.
and somebody is going to get to read the book for me and give
Right.
me the bullet for. This is the best
Absolutely.
slide ever.
And doesn't that make life easy for you?
Well, it does, because I don't know if you guys have ever heard me, but when I get these long emails, I literally there's something in my brain that goes, okay, they could have said this in less words. I like bullets, but I
Yeah.
do like to read. Don't get me wrong. I do like a good book, but I mean, how nice to have this resource
Oh, yeah.
that can just, put it in the bullet form. And then I know if I want to kind of delve deeper into that. I love this
Exactly.
slide, y'all.
Yeah. Exactly. It is really a good tool to use. And, I don't have, as much as I would like to read my life away and decorate, let me just qualify that. I don't have the time to read everything, right? So this is really a good way to get the gist of the material, and like it's beneficial. So the things that I listed for the Robin Sharma book, the 5 a.m. Club, would pretty much be the bullet points that are going to be shared on the Blinkist app. So it's really good, and it's all nonfiction. So don't expect them to read your favorite, um, fiction novel. That won't happen. But it's all nonfiction and ways that books that will help you, self-help books. I put this 20 additional 20 down there because as I shared with Sandra earlier in the week, I had to go see my ophthalmologist for an eye exam, and my eyes are changing. And one of the things that she recommended to me was that because we spend so much time looking at our telephones and looking at our computer monitors, it really is very stressful on our eyes. So the recommendation that she gave to me is this 20 rule, not to confuse you with the 20 of the 5 a.m. club. But for every 20 minutes that you spend looking at your computer monitor or your telephone, pause and take 20 seconds to look at an object 20 feet away. That will give your eyes the needed rest that they need before you go back to your activity with your computer devices or electronic devices. So I just thought that I would throw that in, just to make sure you continue to see well and are not taxing your eyes too much.
That is so good. And we do have a question, and this is a great one.
Mhm.
Any magazines that you suggest that we can read to make sure we're on trend? Any of your favorite ones, Cheryl?
Oh my goodness. Well, if I let my husband tell it, every magazine is my favorite, honestly. So I've got uh, tons of magazines that I go to, and they're not new magazines. They're magazines that I've collected over the years that I keep in crates, and that I will go back and revisit because we know things don't change. The more they change, the more they stay the same. So some of the fabrics and styling things may change, but they don't. So traditional magazines, French country design magazines are a favorite of mine. If you want, what I'll do after the webinar is I'll create a list, Sandra, and I will put it out there
Yeah.
if you want, and I will list all the ones that I read, and you all can have at it. Another thing that I will say, I don't know how you all feel about shopping at Goodwill stores. I'm a big Goodwill store shopper and Salvation Army because I have a lot of clients who I do sustainable decorating for, so they are not opposed to me shopping secondhand. But if you venture into one of those stores, they always have magazines, design magazines. Architectural Digest is one. They always have design magazines that you can pick up and flip through, and you don't have to keep the magazine. You can tear out certain pages that resonate with you, or articles and stories that you think might be beneficial to you down the road, and hold on to those and recycle the rest of the magazine. So I'll give you
That's a
that list,
great
Sandra.
point.
Yeah, I'll give you that list,
I
Sandra, and share it.
Okay, and I'll tell you what I did too. I had a kind of moment where, the clutter almost became, I was saving so many magazines,
Mhm.
and I finally had this moment like, okay, if you could only have two magazines, what would they be?
Mm,
And my two, I picked Southern Living, and they always have a good recipe, and they always have,
yes.
especially their they have a like a tour of homes. They have it's called something else, but they showcase about three homes.
Hmm.
Um, and they have such great tips in them. And then the other one, I love HGTV, and I right now have a stack of those in my office. But I will do like Cheryl suggested, and find a way to go peruse some of the other ones. And TJ Maxx, honestly, guys, they have some really good decorating books. I bought one. It said the color theory, and of course, I was attracted to that. But it
Mm,
had some good magazines. Bitsy, I said Southern Living and HGTV are my two favorite ones, the ones that I really stuck with, because I'm moving all the time. So I'd have $100, £100 worth of magazines, which my husband finally did have a little,
yeah, yeah.
Sandra, kind of moment. But anyway, those are my favorite. But I do
And
like tearing out ideas.
yeah, and Better Homes and Gardens is another one
Yeah.
that's always chock full of a lot of good information. And they also have an additional magazine that they put out that's specific to a particular thing. You know, so it might be color, it might be decorating small spaces, tiny house focus. So, you know, there are a lot of magazines that you can tap into, but I'll get that list for you, Sandra.
Perfect. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. And this is an exercise that I want to suggest that you do if you're, you know, at a point where the people at my church call it on the struggle bus for your business. If you're having, you know, any struggle with how you're going to move your business forward or changes that you might want to make for 2020, I want you to assess your business and think about the things that you love about it and the things that you loathe about it. Love it or loathe it. So over the next week, create a 2-columned activity list. In column number 1, you're going to write down all the things that you look forward to doing in your business, those things that you enjoy immensely. Okay. And then in column number 2, you're going to write down the things that you feel miserable doing, the things that make you feel terrible, and the things that you dread. And additionally, in that column, you need to indicate why you have a certain dislike for that particular thing. Okay. And what that's going to do is allow you an opportunity to look closely and examine the parts of your business that are not bringing you pleasure. And you'll find that there are going to be some common threads throughout your list, and that you can then go ahead and make adjustments accordingly and create yourself an actionable steps list of things that you can do to make it better. Now, there are some things that we can't get around. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, there are just some things that you're going to have to do, particularly if you're a business of one. Like if you're doing everything and you don't have a personal assistant, someone that's going to run errands for you or pick up the draperies that the workroom is fabricated for you, or, you know, those kinds of things. There's some things that you're just going to have to do, but there are ways that you can do it to make the task easier and faster and more enjoyable. Okay, so look at that list over a period of a week, and if you need 2 weeks, go ahead and take 2, and try to determine what it is about your business that is causing you additional stress, and work out a plan for yourself in order to get those things done if they need to be done. Sometimes you'll find out you're doing things that don't necessarily need to be done. But whatever definitely has to be done for your business, then you just want to make sure that you're able to do it and still function, and still, you know, so that it doesn't make your creativity wane. And then after that's done, whatever task it is that you don't find pleasurable, I want you to reward yourself after you do it. Now, Sandra and I talked about having chocolate cake and coffee in the morning. So if you have had a rough day and you got everything that you needed to get done, and the time frame that you needed to get it done, then I say there is absolutely nothing wrong, Sandra. This is for your benefit.
Thank you.
To give yourself a slice of chocolate cake and coffee in the morning. How about that?
Okay, I'm going to go with that. Thank
Oh,
you, Cheryl.
you are very welcome. Okay, the next slide, we're going to talk about allowing yourself R&R. Now, typically R&R would mean rest and relaxation. And I do mean rest. You want to make sure that you are principled enough to allow yourself time for rest. Being an entrepreneur and owning your own business, you are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Even if you are asleep, I should ask Sandra to look for to have people raise their hands for as many times as you've dreamt of decorating. So we not
Ooh,
only
that's
do
a
it when
good
we're
one.
awake, we do it when we are asleep, right? So you want to make sure that you incorporate into your business structure time to rest. And I don't necessarily mean napping, although getting a nap in the afternoon is a really good thing for your body and your brain. It helps you think more clearly. But I don't necessarily mean sleeping. Just a time for you to get away, you know, to breathe deep, to clear your mind, to clear your heart, and, you know, set yourself up for the next thing that needs to be done. And I also want you to allow yourself permission to run. And this just really speaks to qualifying the client. So if you're having a consultation with a client, and let's just say it's a luxury client, and they've got a $1 million property that they want you to decorate or stage for them, but you start getting lots of red flags in that consultation. Then I say, trust your gut, do not discount what you're feeling, and take all of that stuff into consideration before you sign on the dotted line a contract to say, I will do this work for you. Allow yourself permission to run, and don't berate or judge yourself for not, um, as one of my girlfriends would say, securing the bag, right? You want to make sure that your mental health is paramount. So if you think that this client is going to be too difficult for you to deal with, then I say all money is not good money. Give yourself an out. Just tell them you don't think that it's a good fit. You're very pleased and delighted that they considered you for the job, and give them a referral. Sometimes, in if you have established relationships with other decorators or stagers in your particular neck of the woods, you can refer that business to someone else, and they may have the temperament to deal with that particular client better than you can. You will not miss out, because whatever you give away will come back to you. So I always say, just allow yourself the permission to say no to a client, if you feel as though you need to do that.
That's a
Uh,
good point, Cheryl. One of my, especially in the beginning when I didn't have the guts to say, this may not be a good fit. And I will still sometimes say, thank you so much for calling, but I am booked.
mhm,
I am booked for 6 months out or however long. And I
mhm,
mean, it's not a lie because we are booked, and
mhm.
you have to carve out time in that balance. But
Sure.
that was I don't know if I want to call that a wimpy way to get out of it, when I felt the need to, okay, this client is going to be a wackadoo, and
Right.
I'm really trying to weed out wackiness in my life. So why would I take on the crazy client kind
Right.
of
Right.
thing? But
Right. And
so,
sometimes, as I said earlier in the opening slides, sometimes having a difficult client can break you. And it's difficult because then we begin to judge ourselves based upon our client's perception of who we are. And that's not necessarily where we are. That's just who they perceive us to be, right? So
right.
you just want to make sure that when you begin to get those, when you get that gut feeling, I always say trust your gut, go with what you're feeling, and don't judge yourself for not having taken on the job, because sometimes that bit of intuition will go a long ways to making sure you continue to do good work, and that you don't put yourself in a situation where you've got someone who's going to besmirch your name and the name of your company because you didn't measure up to their standards, right?
Right.
Okay, so this slide is beware versus be aware of the competition. So um, I always tell my students when I'm teaching that I want to know who my competition is and what they're doing, but I can't spend so much time focusing on what they're doing because it throws me off my game. So the only competition that I have is competition with myself. And so I want to make sure that I'm always growing. I'm always doing things for my business that I know is going to move the business forward and make me better at what I do. So I don't compare myself with anyone else, but I always try to do things that will better the job that I'm offering to my clients. And if you do that, the only way to do that is to make sure that you are continuing to be diligent in the efforts that you are creating to move your business forward. So social media for me has been a big deal. When Sandra and I started in this business, there was no Google, right, Sandra?
Right.
No, I'm sorry.
We've been around a long time, people.
I don't mean to date you, but I don't want to be out there by myself.
Right. It's
But there
great
was
parents doing it all by itself.
Yeah, there was no Google, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram. So, I learned a way of being in business that was not social media related. And of course, I've come to the social media game kicking and screaming, but I am here and doing my best to bring myself up to speed. But, just know that to be competitive in this industry, you really do need to make sure you exercise your social media muscle and do things that are going to get you noticed, because it doesn't matter how good you are at what you do. if you're not showing the world that on social media, they're going to assume that you're not as good as Susie down the street, who just opened up her business 6 months ago and is rocking and rolling because her Instagram feed is amazing and you don't have anything on Instagram. So I say get yourself up to snuff, get your social media going, and it might not be perfect, and you're going to have some trial and error, and you're going to learn as you go along. I'm still not ready for what is that, Sandra? The video,
The Facebook Live.
Facebook Live, but I'm getting there. And I learned, if you did not attend the webinar that was it Tori Toth?
Tori
Yeah,
last month did a great webinar.
yeah, on Facebook Lives. And one of the things that she shared that I thought, okay, that's my nugget for the night, is that you can do a Facebook Live and set your protections on that live for yourself only. So only me would be your protection, and do your Facebook Live. And then after that, after you have had an opportunity to review it and you're comfortable with how you are presenting yourself to the world, because that does matter, then you can go back and change the protection to show the world that you did this Facebook Live. Now, the only caveat is you don't get to interact with people, but at least it gives you an opportunity to begin to get comfortable with that social media platform. So I do encourage you to make sure that you bring your social media up to speed. There is no need for the green-eyed monster. So if you're looking at your competition and you're getting a little bit jealous, I've just cautioned you to stop there and stop looking at your competition and just make sure you stay on your grind and do the things that you know you need to do in order to make your business profitable. For me, because I live in the Atlanta market, I have a lot of clients who practice sustainability. And so for me, it was just a natural segue to go into a sustainability practice for my business. So I do sustainable design, green design that I call interior decorating. And so that is a niche market for me. So again, find what it is in your market that separates you from the rest, and then do your very best at that one thing in order to keep your business profitable. Okay, this was a really interesting thing. This slide, I want to encourage you to be true to who you are. This website, neilcanhelp.com, I found actually only about 2 weeks ago. And I discovered that I am an owl, but it was not a surprise to me, but I thought the information that he shares was very helpful. So you can go to this website, neilcanhelp.com, and take the speaker quiz to find out what type of presenter you are. Now, this is applicable not only for workshop presentations that you might be doing, consumer workshops, if you will, but it will be helpful for you in your client interactions. For me, because I'm an owl, the main thing that I do is teach. And it's always been a passion of mine, but I am always going to be excited about sharing something I have learned with someone else. So I take that same excitement and ability to communicate to my clients, as well as into presentations that I might do. So please go to this website and take the speaker quiz and find out what you are. There were a couple of other, I think one of the animal representations was a peacock, and then there was another one for people who are quite humorous in terms of how they communicate, their communication style. So I'd be curious to see where some of you end up. If you want to share with me and send me an email or a text after you've had an opportunity to go take the quiz, I'd be curious to see how you ended up. But
let's do it on the DSA site. After the webinar tonight, post what you were. And Cheryl, does this website cost? Does it cost to take this
No,
test?
it's free. It's free.
Oh,
But
good.
of course, once you get through the free part, they're going to try to sell you something, right? Because that's the way of the
Well,
world.
I'm okay with that, because you know what I'm saying? At least I got educated, and I may want to sign up for
Right.
something. I may learn.
Right. And it will also reveal certain other notable speakers, and it will classify you along with those speakers. So you can then go, if you want to go online and pull up some of, go to YouTube and pull up some of the ways that those people are presenting, and you'll see a representation of that, your type speaking, if that makes sense. right?
So you get to kind of see like an
Right. So
owl in action.
exactly.
Okay.
I'll get to see an owl in action. That is correct.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the ABCs. And Sandra, how are we doing on time? Are we good?
We are good. You just keep
Okay.
going. We've got
Okay. Okay.
we've got about 15, about yeah, 13, 14, 15 minutes.
Okay, good. So we'll talk about the ABCs. And the ABCs, of course, will stand for, because that's the way I like to do things, all budget concerns, and be cautious. Okay, so you want to make sure that whatever job you take on is, you make sure that the budget will support the kind of work that your client expects you to do. And that seems like a no-brainer, but trust me, you can get into some very sticky situations. Never accept a job that includes your fees along with purchasing costs. And that's a principle that I hope you will stick to, because can be quite painful to get a job, to have an agreement with your client that you're going to do a certain list of things, and get to the end of that list and there's not any money left for you to get paid. And your client says to you, but I told you in the beginning that my budget was $50,000, and that you needed to get paid out of that $50,000 along with all the other things that I needed to have put in this home. So I say be very, very diligent about the jobs that you take and the budget that your client will allow. Now, I always say I can work with any budget, and that is true. But if you have if you have a mansion and you only have $50,000, and I've got to get furniture, artwork, and accessories out of that 50,000 and still get paid, it's not going to happen. So don't get yourself into a situation where you're boxed in and the end result is, because you're trying to make sure you keep your reputation intact, that you give them everything that they need and want, and that you don't get paid. Okay, that's
So
not being
you
fair.
def
I'm
so
sorry,
you
Sam.
definitely hit a hot spot with that, because Miller says, been there, done that, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and that's true, guys. And that's one of the reasons that, like Cheryl and I have, and all, indeed, we have the comfort zone shopping list.
yes,
That's a good place to start, to be very, itemized with what is going into that project. And then that the client can't say, oh gosh, I had no clue that this
mhm,
was, whatever, that we needed 8 lamps kind of thing.
right, right,
So, so
yeah.
that's a great point,
Oh,
Cheryl.
yeah, absolutely. So just be very careful about that, because we all love what we do. And we always say what you would do for free, that's what you need to be doing, in terms of your livelihood. But we want to get paid. At the end of the day, you work really hard, you create a pretty space, you want to make sure you get a paycheck at the end. So be mindful of that. Be very cautious. Another thing is, over time, and I tell my students this, when they go home from class, their first few jobs, I would like to see their pictures. And what I do is critique their work to make sure they're following the rules that we share when we're in class. And I also encourage them to critique their own work. I have found over the years that sometimes you get stuck and you begin to employ a certain technique on the jobs that you do, on every job, right? And so you want to make sure that you're not always placing, a large plant in the right diagonal corner, because we know that's where the eye goes to first. So you want to make sure that you're not doing the same thing in every home that you do, because after a while, Jane is going to tell Sue and Sue is going to tell Mary, I know exactly what Cheryl is going to do in my house, or I know exactly what Sandra is going to do in my house. You don't want your design work to be that stale. Okay. So look for things in your photos. And sometimes, it takes looking at your photos in order to see it, because you don't necessarily see it while you're working. What's showing up often in your projects. Just make sure that every job that you do is unique to your client. Now, there is one caveat to that. Sometimes it can be tricky, because if people are going online and they're looking at your portfolio, a lot of times people will choose you or select you as a service provider because they like the style of homes that you do, or they like the particular style that the clients are gravitating toward, and most of their clients are coming to you. So it can be tricky, but just make sure that you're mindful of it, and that you are monitoring what you're doing to make sure that you're not just doing the same thing over and over again. If every mantle that you do is an asymmetrical design with, a topiary on one side and candles lower on the right, then you know that you're doing the same thing over and over again. So you want to make sure that you review everything you do to make sure it's not stale. Okay. And that you're not designing in your own design sensibility. Another tip is to make sure that you remain aware of what's hot, hip, and happening. Okay, so you want to vary your resources. Wherever you're shopping, make sure that you're not just shopping at the same places over and over and over again. And that's whether you're shopping in sneakers with boots on the ground and in the store, as I am with a couple of my students. But you want to make sure, even if you're shopping online, that you're going to some different resources so that you can make sure that the product that you deliver in terms of the room that you're doing or the home that you're doing for your clients is varied. Okay.
Good
Here
point.
is a resource that I found just this past January market at America's Mart. I don't know if you're familiar with America's Mart, but it is the candy store for interior decorators, stagers, and designers. And I met Square Feathers while I was there a couple of weeks ago. And it's a wonderful resource. Even if you can't utilize them for buying, it's an opportunity for you to go look at the items that they have on their portfolio and then kind of mimic that for jobs that you might have coming up. It is pricey, so I don't want to say, I know that not everybody will be able to afford a $150 pillow. And actually, the pillows that are pictured on that sofa run about $100, $125 each. But
Wow.
the prices that are listed on their website are retail prices. So of course, if you're to the trade, you're only going to pay 50% of the price that they have listed. But they have a trade program that you can avail yourself of. They've got a minimum purchase. So again, I just wanted to offer it as a resource for you if you're not dealing with a luxury client and you're not going to be able to afford their product line, that at least you can look at what they have to offer and then perhaps find it at a better price at a Home Goods or an at-home store or Marshall's or TJ Maxx, as Sandra mentioned earlier. Sometimes are really great go-to places because they're carrying the brands that didn't sell in the larger big box stores, right? And so you can get them at a discount. So go ahead and check out squarefeathers.com for the trade program. In order to sign up, of course, you've got to have your business license and your other business credentials in order to qualify. But if you have all of those things in order, then you should be able to join their trade program and at least have access to their portfolio so you can see, what they're doing and see if there's any way that you can mimic it in another way for your client.
And Cheryl, what's really good about what you just said then was, like Siobhan had asked the question about magazines for trends. That's another one of those great resources. I mean, I saw this is one of the wholesalers at market. That doesn't mean necessarily that you went to market. That says to your client, I am aware of the trends and I am showing you what looks are in. And now let's look at your budget, kind of thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, I'll do mine really quick because we are getting close on time. And then because we do have a couple of great points. One of the things, so when Cheryl sent out, what is your pleasure principle, I had to have a little bit more explanation about what that really, what that meant. What am I supposed to be providing here? But I really do love it when I can figure out something unique that will fill an awkward space or solve a problem. And again, I want it to be following design principles or rules that really guidelines out there that we share that make sense, that they're practical. We don't just come up with, 2/3 of a wall should be filled, and over an anchor piece, whatever. We don't make that stuff up. We know that that's what is going to be pleasing for balance and scale. So that wall that you see as you walk down the stairs is always so boring. And it's hard to come up with artwork to fill that. So this is stickwood. It's STIKWOOD. It's actually reclaimed wood. They shave off 1/8 on the top, and it is a peel and stick treatment. So you get real wood with peel and stick that some homeowners can even opt to do. And you, for being in the business, are also eligible for a discount. It usually retails for $14 and you can get it like for 11. It depends on which style you pick also. So that's one of my solutions. And then another one that I have loved is doing this some kind of wood treatment, whether it's a 1x2 or a 1x1 piece of wood, different design shapes. I've actually done just that checkerboard, kind of that coppered look. Painting it all the same color gives you that dimension. And then keep in mind, whatever piece of art that you put here, if that's what you opt for, it needs to be explainable. It can't be small figures or a landscape view if you can't tell what the landscape is, because you need those very dominant looks here. So here was two that I shared. And then the other thing that gives me pleasure, which we talked about a little bit, y'all know my favorite app is Todoist. It keeps me very organized and it helps me keep clients organized. You can make a shareable folder. You put your do list here. My assistant has one. I am just addicted to label makers and a scanner. I literally did have a little extra free time this weekend, and I did a cute font on clear labels, and I labeled the plastic bins in my refrigerator. That is probably a little much for what I typically do, but I did. So they're nice and they're big, and it just keeps everybody organized.
Well, you know, I am going to do that, Sandra. You have given me something to do this weekend, so I think I'm going to take your lead and and label my refrigerator as well.
I will post a picture. I'll share it with you girls. It's not perfect. It's not a Pinterest worthy, but it's like, here's the breakfast bin. So, so the peanut butter didn't get one place and jelly another. So my favorite scanner, Miller, is this Epson ES500W. There's also like a 550W. What I love about it is it will scan like 60 pages at one time, front and back. So you get that, insurance policy that's, 2 million pages front and back, and you think, gosh, I should keep this. So I just scan it and I have it stored in the cloud. And then that way I get rid of all that paper.
Oh, that's really good.
Yes, that really did help me. Before we get too far, Jenny has a really great question here. And I'll come back to this next one. Cheryl, when you are talking about your fees and, avoiding not getting paid if you only had 50,000 for the client, do you give them your service fee separately? Are you kind of rolling it into that invoice?
Yeah, the service fee was given separately, and the homeowner said, we can do this contract as long as you can get everything done for $50,000. Right? So you can have this job. I will hire you to do this work for me, even though let's just say my service fee is $15,000, right? They're saying to me, my budget is 50,000. So you can have this contract as long as you can get everything that I need and your money out of $50,000. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Did that clear that up? Yeah, Jenny, that was Jenny. I had another question. Okay, Jenny, let me know if that clears that up. Okay, perfect. Yes. And yes, this will be available for 2 weeks to listen to. And if you're registered in the membership and you're in the directory, you get access to it all the time. And if you're not part of our directory, we would love for you to join. It is $99 and you get discounts and you get to hear this forever and ever. Okay, so this is one other thing, solving problems. I love these transitional kind of pieces of art. They can go horizontal, vertical. They can go in those awkward spaces. You can use, one application, maybe one or two of these. In this case, it actually kind of serves as, let's just call it the faux headboard, but it gives that focal point to what would have been a nice, there's a mattress with some hotel coverlet on it. So
Okay,
just
right.
increasing the value with the tricks.
Yeah, very pretty, Sandra. Okay, the I thought originally that Sandra and I would be joined by Joanne and Carol, but they're with us in spirit, not in person. But Joanne wanted to share this pleasure of client reactions with you. And she says, as a learning experience, the ones who cry with joy are an easy tell. And I believe if you're on this call, you have had the experience where you've done work for someone and they were so totally blown away by how beautiful their space looked after the work was done that they wept. And so for Joanne, she's like, those are easy, but it's the quiet ones that send your brain racing, right? Those are the ones where you're not really sure what their silence is saying to you. But as her mom always told her, listen as much as you talk and observe body language so you can pick up on their joy. Sometimes they're just stunned into silence, right? So we want to make sure that we always allow our clients the opportunity to take in everything that they're seeing and experiencing. And sometimes, you may come into a situation where they're reacting because it's so different from what they've experienced, but they still like it. So we need to allow them an opportunity to receive what we've done, so that at the end, you can say that it is your pleasure. So that was Joanne's offering for our principle for pleasure principle. And then Carol said her pleasure is turning a house into a home. That is pure pleasure when a homeowner says, this used to be just a pathway to get to the patio. Now it's our destination and the kids want to do their homework in here. And how often have we seen that? Unused rooms. People buy, houses and have rooms that they don't necessarily go into. But after they've had the pleasure of having you come in and work in their home and bring your artistry into their space, then it becomes really truly a home for them and a place where they can actually enjoy each other and certain other activities. Carol says that we make peace from chaos, and that is so true. It's not just organizing clutter. And when you're surrounded by chaos, your mind becomes chaotic. And we talked about that earlier when we talked about making sure that your office was a space that would be conducive for creativity. It's the same thing with the people that we service. You want to make sure that their surrounding becomes peaceful, based upon the things that you do. Carol says creating romance is the big soft chair and a cup of tea and a hot bath with fluffy towels. That would be considered romance too, and that is so true. Okay, this is our last slide, and this is just a word that I want to leave with you all, that as you pursue your passion, be principled about how you proceed. It'll make decorating and staging projects that you work on a pleasure. Pain-free, because we don't want to deal with pain. And of course, we will make them all very pretty. So it has been a pleasure to be with you all tonight on the pleasure principles. I hope that I gave you some information that would be beneficial to you and your businesses and keep you as a busy, bounteous boss instead of broke and broken. We want to make sure that the Decorating and Staging Academy wants to make sure that you are making money in this industry and that you're not leaving any money on the table. I want to add that if you're in the Southeast region of the United States, or if you're in the Georgia area and you've been considering taking a class, I would be delighted to have you come and take the class with me. My next class for Atlanta is March 18th through the 22nd, and I teach my classes on Wednesday through Sunday. So if you can't manage to do a whole week of Monday through Friday, then you have an opportunity if you take my class to do it over a weekend, so that you really only have to take a couple of days from your week in order to get accomplished. So I would love to have you join me if you are so inclined. Okay. And Sandra, you're going to take this slide?
Oh, absolutely, guys. Just if you have any questions, type them right now. We would really appreciate it. If you'll like us on Facebook, you can join the Decorators and Stagers, join us on Instagram. Just reach out to us, because that's kind of how we get the word out if we're doing these webinars. And if you missed last month's webinar, I'm going to post that up there for you to enjoy that, because Tori really did share a lot of good information. And she also has a great perk for us. if you sign up, you can get 2 free sessions with some of her custom plans. So she's got lots of options. I kind of look at it like she'll help you with just content, help you get a whole marketing plan, whatever you need. So schedule a free discovery session with her and just shoot me an email and I will give you what you need also, or you can write this down. I will, let's see if I can, Cheryl, can you highlight that and pop it into the answer, that website right there, the link, and that way then they will have that. While Cheryl's doing that, I want to share, let's see, Jenny loves Veranda and House Beautiful. That is 2 great ones. Betsy likes Domino, and let's see, any other magazines out here. We talked about that. I think we've answered most of your questions. I can't wait to go take my test and find out what kind of speaker I am.
I know you're not an owl.
Now, why is that, Cheryl?
Because we're too different, but you'll have to share, and everyone, I'm really excited about seeing where everybody falls on that continuum. So do that. That's exciting and fun.
That'll be good, guys. Check that out. And Cheryl, I don't want to end that till you've posted that thing. Have you posted it?
No, I haven't, because it's not a live link.
Oh, okay.
So
I think, give me 1 minute. I want to do this if I can. Let me see if I can do this. 1 second.
Take it away from me?
No, I'm going to wait. You just talk for 1 second. I think I can do it. Hang on 1 sec. Because I know y'all are going to want, oh, here it is right here. All right. All right. So you guys write this down if you want it, and I'm sending it to all in the question section. If you'll just somebody let me know for sure if they saw it. Yeah, thank you, Cindy. Guys, thank you so much. We have enjoyed it. Cheryl, you, as always, did an awesome job.
Well, thank you very much.
We appreciate it. And guys, post what you are.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Good night.